Hello everybody. So I finally get to show you how I made the gorgeous beach tumblers. I posted a short about that not too long ago. And these were for a special girls trip to Jamaica. And I took these as sort of a surprise. I told my girlfriends not to pack tumblers, so they knew, but they had no clue what the design was going to be. So I'll post the link for the inspiration video for my design here. I did change up quite a few things, but I do want to give credit to the person who I got the inspiration from. So these are from the Stainless Depot. These are I think they're called Hogdol. These are hogs with a handle. 24-ounce stainless steel tumblers. I spray painted them. I showed you the spray paint colors earlier. And I wanted to try something differently. I knew I wanted to do a peekaboo on not just the sand area, but also the water area. And for my base of the peekaboo, I am using, this is imitation gold leaf. But I thought this was a pretty creative idea because this was something I did come up with myself, and it worked out really well. So once the spray paint was dry, I put tacket all over the entire cup. I actually did 2 coats of the tacket, which I do recommend just to help you fill in any of the spots that you may have missed the first time, and it's really easy to do that. But this is just really inexpensive imitation gold leaf, and it adheres very well to the tacket. And once I had most of it covered, I just took my gloved hand and rubbed all the excess off, and it just laid down beautifully. So, and all the flakes that sort of fell off, I just kept reusing those. So for each of the stages of this cup, I'm only going to show you one time bubbles from SOC Glitters, Sandy's Organized Chaos. And so I'm using the tacket to adhere the glitter. That was bubbles. This is a mixture of some white glitter and some teal glitter. I knew I needed a lighter blue or bluish green toward the top for the peekaboo. And then the middle glitter is also from SOC Glitters called Gulf Coast. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. So 2 things I would do differently already. One is I would not have put down the bubbles glitter at all because it ends up not showing through the, oh, I spilled the glitter. Just wanted to show you this is super real life and very messy. The other thing that I would do differently is right now I'm burnishing down the glitter, trying to get it to lay super duper flat to try and save myself a step or 2 of epoxy to get it smooth. But, the glitter, of course, laid flat, just like the gold leaf. But I didn't have the sparkle effect that I was looking for. So what I did was I coated it with that clear spray, because if you don't do that, then this epoxy will completely repel from the glitter and probably from the gold leaf too. So I definitely wanted to get that all sealed in and create a nice surface for the epoxy. Waited for that to dry. And then I'm putting on a relatively thin coat of epoxy on each of these cups. So I did do 4 total, but in each of these little segments of this video, I only show you 1 or 2 at a time. So what I'm going to do is sprinkle additional glitter over top of this layer of thin epoxy, giving it a torch just to pop any bubbles before I go ahead and lay down the glitter. But I really was after just a super shiny, sparkly glitter for my peekaboo, and the burnishing process did not give me that. This wasn't super holographic glitter, so I don't know, it wasn't sparkly enough. So again, notice I'm putting the lighter color glitter toward the top. It was very intentional because knowing I'm going to be doing a peekaboo and then putting a darker blue over top of the peekaboo, I had to have contrast in order to see the design underneath. So if that doesn't make sense yet, stick with me. So again, putting down that Gulf Coast, and I should have withheld the Bubbles glitter. Bubbles is just gorgeous, and it is perfect for a beach tumbler. However, putting it underneath the peekaboo was a little bit of a waste, but you know what? You live and you learn. It was still very fun to do. Bubbles is a super chunky mixed with sort of a medium chunky. And some of the super chunky glitter parts did create some problems with sticking up, but I just ended up sanding what I needed to sand, and it all worked out in the end. So I'm still going to, oh, and I didn't put anything over the epoxy that's on top of the gold leaf section. I'm just using my popsicle stick to push any of that glitter, the Bubbles glitter, that sort of started to fall or move downward. I wanted that to stay off of the gold leaf. I wanted the gold leaf to stay plain. So I'm using a gloved finger to make sure that none of the glitter is sticking out from the top, but also to gently tap the glitter down so that it wasn't poking out too much, because if your glitter's sticking out a lot, then you're going to have to do layers and layers and layers of epoxy and sanding to get your tumbler smooth. Paying extra careful attention to the handle area, making sure that it's nice and flat there, especially. But like I said, each of these stages, I show you one or two of the cups, and it was somewhat random which cup I ended up filming. So you may see the same cup, you may not. So here it is with the flash. Absolutely gorgeous. This was after I flattened it all down. I really wasn't worried about a perfect ombre between the colors because, again, this is going to be the base of my peekaboo. Ugh, just mesmerizing. Could stare at this all day. So I did put a second coat of epoxy over top of that first coat because the glitter was quite lumpy. Before moving on, I cleaned up the rim. I'm just using a really old craft knife that actually the tip of it broke off, but it still works for what I need it to. Whatever you do, keep your fingers out of the way and your hand out of the way. I have cut myself by accident way too many times. It's embarrassing. So I used my Cricut Design Space and my Cricut Joy, and I cut out, this is removable vinyl, and I wanted all of ours to look very similar. So I did our name, I did a tropical fish, sea turtle, little tiny fish, and so these are girlfriends from college, and we called ourselves the Breakaway Babes. So the peekaboo in the sand area is going to have that wording. And if I can help it, I really like to decorate the handles. And I put a little special fish on the inside of that handle, just for, I felt like it was an extra special touch. So I spray painted the entire cup white except for where the gold leaf was and let it dry. I am using a magic eraser. I know it sounds weird, but it works really well. I cut it up, and I also cut off the sharp edges of the sponge. I put the darkest color at the top. Remember how I mentioned that we need the contrast. And so then now I really am going to try and ombre the colors, fade the colors, blend the colors into each other as I move down the cup. So darkest blue at the top, and then like a turquoise in the middle, and then a lighter blue as we get closer to the shoreline. These are all the colors, or all colors from Pixis. I had tried using a makeup sponge before I tried the magic eraser, and the makeup sponge just really absorbed the ink, so much so that I could not get it to transfer onto the cup. So I had used magic erasers before, and back to the magic erasers we went. So now what I'm doing is spraying clear alcohol onto the magic eraser square and just kind of blending a little bit extra. And then here's the magic, guys. You can't see it, but I am spritzing, and I mean misting, the cup from afar with 91% isopropyl alcohol. And it's just like magical right before your eyes. It makes these just beautiful speckles, maybe is the best way to describe it. And I just loved it. It's very easy to overdo, so be careful. I had started to weed my vinyl off, but I realized that I should add my tacket to the bottom so that it could start to dry as I continue weeding the rest of the vinyl. And I started the weeding process not too long after I did the spritzing or the misting, because alcohol ink and alcohol spritz dry very, very fast. And so I just had to be careful not to let my cup hit the table because it has the tacket on the bottom. But tacket will always be tacky. You still need to let it dry. It's milky, and then it becomes clear as it dries. And it takes, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes at the most. I used to hate weeding vinyl, but now I actually really like it, especially if there's glitter underneath. And then if I happen to scrape the alcohol ink pattern with my little weeding tool, I just went back in easily with a sponge and just added a little bit of blue ink back in. So from SOC Glitters, this is Coffee Cake. It's a fine gold glitter. And just getting the bottom coated, using my finger to burnish it down. I did need it burnished because I had to pull up the vinyl underneath. And if the glitter had remained any kind of vertical or really perpendicular to the cup, then my letters may not have been clear. And I needed it to be very clear what it said. So a lot of times I seal my glitter with spray, but I was not willing to risk it with this, because if I had sprayed this with the clear spray, then I would have ruined my alcohol ink pattern on the blue. So I'm using Mod Podge. It's not my favorite thing. But I let the Mod Podge and the alcohol inks all dry overnight. And when you do that, you do not have to seal the alcohol inks in at all. I just go straight in with the epoxy. I try not to overwork it, because then you kind of risk the alcohol ink moving a little bit, but I really haven't had problems as long as I let it dry. So I added some of that epoxy dye. It's like a thick paste almost to my resin. I had added a relatively thin layer of clear resin first. And then I'm just taking my popsicle stick and making streaks. So I recommend starting with less versus more. I realize I'm pushing it at this point. And what I'm after, and I did ultimately achieve, are waves, but not just waves. I wanted cells in the waves. So you can't really tell, but I'm torching right now, lightly torching, just to get rid of air bubbles. The key is to not overheat the resin. So this is actually real time. I did not speed this portion of the video up at all because I wanted you to see exactly what I did. So this is a regular old hairdryer with the attachment, which I notoriously end up hitting the cup with the attachment because it's hard to see exactly where it's going, but be careful with that. And I just did some sweeping motions, trying to keep the hairdryer moving for the most part, unless I was really trying to target a specific area. But this particular segment of the video, I think, is about 1.5 minutes, so feel free to speed this up if you want to, but really trying not to overwork it, but I needed movement, right? So if you don't do this at all, then you're not going to get the movement you're looking for. If you heat it up way too much, then what's going to happen is your resin's going to just run and make runny streaks and swirls all around the cup. So I wanted the waves to stay mostly put. Of course, I was okay with a little bit of movement. So hopefully that makes sense. But what happens when you don't overheat the resin is that cells form. You have to give it some time. But it happened. This is what happens when you get the movement and then stop heating it and just let it be. And I just thought this was absolutely mesmerizing. The peekaboos worked out. I got this really cool, like, white swirly thing going on there by the handle. So I just loved it. So here's all 4 of them with our names facing outward. This is the back with the turtle, and then the back, or the other side, with the tropical fish. So here is the beach in Jamaica. Here's me actually using my cup on the beach. That was called Purple Rain. It was delicious. We had them by the pool. And then here's me scuba diving. It was just an amazing trip, and loved the colors and can't wait to go back. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.